Hello, this is Kevin, and I'll be going through AI hearing today as part of my group's project. So my partner has been working on making the AI be able to remember the player's location and knowledge sharing between AI agents. My side of this assignment is working on improving the AI sensors, and in this case I've given our agent the ability to hear. The hearing ability will allow it to react to the sound of a player's gun firing and respond to the calls of other AI agents who will emit a sound when they spot the player. In the demo footage playing, you may be able to hear a sort of alarm or buzzing noise from the AI. That is their signal to call other AIs to help them out. So you can see from the video there that as soon as we fired the gun, the AI that were in range to hear it sent a message to the output log there that they heard a noise, and then another message in the output log that they're investigating the coordinates of where the sound came from. Yep, so that checks out what we see in the viewport there too. We can see that as soon as we fired, a group of agents in front of us there, they were walking towards the right, just suddenly turned around and started coming towards us. Alright, so how I got the hearing to work on the AI was first I open up the enemy character blueprint, and then we need to go to our AI perception component. From here in the details, we look in the AI perception section here. Then in the sensors config, we just want to add another element. So I've already done that. You can see there is AI site config, which we used for the A to C, and then from here, just search for AI hearing config in the dropdown. And now we can expand this, expand sense, and there we have our options. So the main option you really want to play with is the hearing range and the detection by affiliation. So I've just currently have everything ticked, so the AI will be able to hear from everything that reports a noise event, which we'll go into later. So from here, we set our hearing range. I've found 1,500 to be comfortable for what we're trying to achieve. And now let's talk about the site for a second. So I've adjusted the site lower than its default value here because I wanted the hearing component to play a more active role in our assignment. So I've cut it down by half. That way the AI won't be able to spot the player as easily in like weird, I don't know, like sideways angles, I guess. And we'll rely more on being able to hear the player's gunshots and hearing other AI calling for help. Alright, so let's jump into the code and see how it all works. So this is the code related to the hearing component of the AI. So here we have the sensors triggered function. This is similar to the actor sensed or whatever it was that we had in the labs previous weeks, player sensed, something like that, player sided. This function works in a similar way, except we took in sight into consideration, not sight, hearing into consideration as well, rather. So it might look a little bit overwhelming at first with a lot of if statements, but they're really just to differentiate between sight and hearing. So first, as usual, we see whether or not a stimulus was successfully received. And from there, we check what type it is. So it will first check for sight. It will always prioritize sight, since if the enemy already sees the player, then it won't need to worry about hearing a call for help from another AI or hearing the gunshots of the player, since it can already see them and then react accordingly. So if it, so first here, if you see if the sensed actor is the player, then it will basically do the same thing as we've set it up before in the labs. It will just shoot at the player, except this time to incorporate hearing into this, we've added the alert allies function here, and I'll quickly go through what that does. So here in alert allies, we have this play alert here that essentially just is calls a blueprint that plays the buzzing sound that you might hear. So you don't need to worry about that too much, because the AI doesn't really hear that. This here, the report noise event, is what's important for the AI to be able to respond to other AI. So this is the noise event that the AI is able to hear. So it needs the location that the sound will be coming from, which in this case will be the AI calling for help. So we'll get the location of the actor, the current actor. This variable here, the for float, that is the loudness of the sound. That is really just a multiplier to the range that the noise event can be heard. This next parameter here is the instigator. Instigator is basically what is calling the noise, which in this case is the enemy as well. So we just write this. This here is the max range that the noise can be heard, and I've just set that to 2000. And that there's just a tag, sort of just a metadata thing. We don't really use it. We haven't really been using it so far, so yeah, we just gave it an NPC alert tag. That's it. Alright, so let's go back to sensors triggered. So another thing to note here is that we've actually, this is not in the original lab task, the sense actor get name documented player. This is just so the AI doesn't respond and shoot to other AI agents, and will only shoot the player. So this is just to avoid friendly fire type of thing. So moving on, this last notifications thing, don't need to worry about that. That's my partner's work. They'll explain it in their video. So if we go down here to this else if statement here, so if the AI received stimulus but it was not seeing the player, then it will check to see if the AI heard something. And if the AI heard something, it will print a message in the log, like we've seen before, and then it will update the heard location. Now, what this heard location does, we'll scroll up to our agent states. So yeah, we'll look here in the agent patrol state. So before it would walk randomly around, and with this, it will prioritize moving towards locations where it heard a sound. So this if statement basically checks to see if a sound has been, a heard location has been recorded and is also not where it's currently searching. And from there, it will set up a new path, print a log message that stating which AI is searching which location, update it's currently searching to the location, the heard location, and then it would find the nearest node to that spot where it heard the noise and then move accordingly. And this is the last notification thing that my partner's working on. We'll just skip over that. And if nothing's heard and it has no memory of any locations, then it will just move as random as normal. And that more or less covers how the hearing works.